Hey everyone, welcome back. Well, it looks like Kentucky is really starting to feel the pain after choosing to tick the box beside the orange guy's name on the ballot. It was announced that Jim Beam is halting production at its largest distillery. And guess what? It's due to the fact that Canadians have removed the alcohol from their shelves. Why did we remove it? Well, we all know why. So today I want to discuss that and share some feedback from others that I found on TikTok. I also wanted to show an editorial ad from the US media outlet, encouraging people to shop local. This editorial ad would not exist if it wasn't for our boycott, so I know you're going to want to see this. I also have a follow-up report from CBC in regards to that ski resort report that I did a few days ago. Today's backdrop comes from Darren, who sent in this photo of Alexander Bay in Newfoundland and Labrador. I love seeing coastal and lakefront photos now, because I don't get that at my doorstep anymore. So thank you, Darren, for sending this over. Just a reminder to anyone sending photos, your photos need to be in landscape orientation. If it's vertical, it's going to be very hard for me to use. All right, let's get started. And I apologize. The co-host was literally sleeping for the last 3 hours and now decides to wake up. So you're going to hear it today. I wanted to first address a video that's making its rounds on YouTube. It appears to be a video from George Conway, Kellyanne Conway's husband. That's an interesting marriage. But I wanted to clear this up with everyone. That video is not George Conway speaking. It's an AI creation that only appears to be him. I've had over a dozen, maybe almost 24 people reach out to me, asking me to use this video or include his message in one of my own. And I can't do that, because it's not legitimately coming from George. I'm taking a moment here as a public service reminder. Everyone needs to be really careful when it comes to the videos on YouTube. If any videos are created with AI, I will not be using them on my channel. Why? Because whatever AI slop is used to generate those scripts cannot be verified. I'm also not a fan of AI channels, and quite frankly, I hate them. Mainly because I've had so many problems with copycats in the past. But ultimately, as I mentioned before, these AI channels exist just for the clicks, and that's it. So always take a second to make sure that the videos you're watching are coming from legitimate sources, and not ones that are just content farmers chasing for your views. Okay, let's get into the Kentucky bourbon reports, which I'm sure these ones are going to make you smile, because I did.
The largest whiskey producer in Kentucky and across the country is pausing its production. Jim Beam says it plans to shut down distillation at its Clermont facility in the new year. In a statement, the company says it's taking the opportunity to invest in site enhancements. The visitor center at the site will stay open for people who are visiting the Kentucky Bourbon Trail.
Notice how short this report is? I watched it and I thought, that's it? That's all you have to say about this? In my opinion, it almost feels like the Kentucky media doesn't want to admit that the real reason the production is being paused has to do with their president. Don't forget, this message is being delivered to the domestic Kentucky audience, in a state where they overwhelmingly voted for the orange guy. This is exactly what I was talking about when I spoke to Bill from the Bill Kelly podcast. When I said that US viewers only know what they're being told, this is what I meant. And on top of that, the average US citizen will only believe what the orange guy says, because they don't think for themselves.
So I didn't really do much research, so I can't make comment, but I just trust Trump. Whatever Trump does, I'm going to take his word and go with it. He's the best guy on the planet.
I'm sure in their eyes, Canada is the bad guy here, and we're the ones causing their industry to collapse. But at the same time, I also realize there's no reasoning or educating those who voted for Trump. Let me know in the comments if you agree with me on this. And if you do, and you're not subscribed yet, help the channel out by hitting that subscribe button below. Or subscribe if you like hearing the cap noise in the back. Now, since the US media isn't really showcasing this the way that they should, let's hear from everyday US citizens and their opinion on this.
Well, Kentucky fucked around and is finding out as Jim Beam is shutting down its biggest distillery. Yes, for 2026, Jim Beam is suspending production at their biggest distillery in Kentucky, a state that overwhelmingly voted for Donald Trump. And part of the reason is because of a decline in sales. Yeah, 85% drop in exports is what Jim Beam has seen over this last Donald Trump's presidency. Let's just go with that because that's a unit of measure now. But yeah, Kentucky decided to vote for Donald Trump and they produce bourbon. That's one of their biggest, if not the biggest export of the state of Kentucky. And when Donald Trump decided to put tariffs on everybody just at a whim, he decided to attack Canada as well, one of our free trade partners. Well, Canada said, screw you, we're not going to drink your American liquor. And that's exactly what they did. They've been boycotting ever since, I think it was early March, sometime in there. It was on and off again. I'm not really sure. But Jim Beam has seen such a decline in sales, partially, but mostly due to that it's not suspending everything. It still will be making some at some other locations. But its main distillery in Claremont, Kentucky, is going to suspend operations in 2026. If that's not a fuck around and find out, I'm not sure what is. So Kentucky, you love your bourbon, you love producing it, you love selling it. It's your biggest export. And guess what? Other countries aren't buying it because of the man you voted for president. So fuck around and find out, my friend.
Well said. And let's not be blind here. Much of the Kentucky bourbon industry does not blame Trump for this. I say this because Chris Swanger, who I openly despise, has been gaslighting Canada and pleading us to drop our liquor ban. He keeps claiming that their product is unique, established, and whatever other garbage that comes out of his mouth. Oh, and let's not forget, he also voted for Trump, but somehow thinks his liquor industry should be exempt from the tariffs. Personally, I think industries like the auto, lumber, steel, and many others should get priority for exemptions over an industry that just gets people drunk. Now let's get another person's point of view on this.
And once again, Kentucky continues to fuck around and find out in Trump's America, partially thanks to the trade wars going on with Canada and the fact that Canadians are still boycotting American products and American liquor. Bourbon has suffered terribly. I'm guessing that this is a strategic move on Jim Beam's part, waiting for the outcome of the midterms, which are next year, and which is trending towards the Democrats and will likely see an end to these tariffs. So I think this is partially a strategic decision.
I'm not so sure about that. I did have faith in the midterms, but Trump and his administration are doing everything they can to rig it in their favor. That's just my opinion. Let's continue.
Financial decision, and also due to the fact that young people are turning to other vices other than alcohol to, I guess, drown. They're no longer drowning their sorrow, so to speak. But yeah, red states fucking around and finding out, getting hit hardest by all these tariffs and these economic decisions, and it's going to get worse before it gets better, if it gets better. And that's, again, depending on the outcome of the midterms. So,
again, I'm not as confident about the midterms as I was earlier this year. But when it comes to the Kentucky bourbon industry, I quite frankly don't have any sympathy for them at all. I kind of feel the same way as this Canadian here. You see that smile he has on his face? That's the same smile I have on my face right now, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. I don't think this is the end of hearing about the Kentucky bourbon industry. I'm fairly certain that we're going to hear more reports in 2026 excuse me, about the locals and large distilleries closing down or reducing production. And it's not just because their number one export country is banning the products. It's also because local sales are getting tougher. Another domino is falling, and that domino is Trump driving up prices for everything else. Liquor isn't a necessity like groceries, so people are going to choose other things over it. So if you ask me, this is just the tip of the iceberg. Now moving on, I wanted to show you an editorial ad that a local US media station decided to publish. Let's take a look.
Is an NBC5 editorial. Speaking on behalf of the editorial board is President and General Manager Ryan Rothstein.
It's going to be a busy weekend for last-minute holiday shopping. And if you're making your list and checking it twice, we hope you'll keep something in mind. It's getting down to the wire for online orders, but you are guaranteed to leave with a gift in hand if you shop locally. And that present can go a long way. When the boxes and wrapping paper are long gone, our local stores and restaurants are relying on you to help them survive in a season where we all know Canadian visitors have been down and tariffs have been up. They say this season could be make or break for them. When you shop local, you're not just helping a business, you're helping a neighbor and their family. And that's really the gift that keeps on giving all year long.
Doesn't this sound like one of those ads with the Sarah McLachlan music playing in the background, telling you that your donation will help, and that every $10 will go a long way towards helping a struggling business? Just to be clear, no disrespect at all to those charities that actually use the Sarah McLachlan music. But to me, the fact that this editorial piece exists tells me everything I need to know that our boycott is still making a dent, a real one. So much that they felt they needed to create a public service announcement. For anyone hearing that things are softening or that the boycott doesn't really make a difference, or if you're reading in my comments from the haters claiming they don't need Canada at all, just watch this report again. Look past what the guy is actually saying and focus on why this was created in the first place. Now moving on, I wanted to revisit the Montana ski resort again. It's the same people from the previous report, but this time they give a little bit more context about their struggles and also their prediction for 2026.
On the eve of the busy holiday season, U.S. ski resorts are dreading a drop in Canadian tourists this winter.
We are looking at the economic trends. We're looking at the environment that we're in and encouraging folks to continue visiting.
A hit to many mountain towns who rely on visitors traveling south across the border.
Just checked our occupancy rates and we're 25% under 2024 rates.
Now, this wasn't mentioned in the previous report. This is the same guy who said his promotion was working because he had one Canadian booked to his hotel. But now we know that he's about 25% down from the previous year. This should be the time of the year when his hotel or Airbnb business or whatever it is at full occupancy, or almost full, especially with the holiday season now here. But being down 25% is not a small number. I think we have to remember while 25% might sound small to us, of course we would want it to be like 100. Resorts, hotels, and other businesses have a lot of expenses to cover. Many of them are also operating on very thin profit margins. So that 25% is often what they need to pay staff, cover expenses, and keep everything running. All I know is that they're not getting that this year.
So it's considerable.
In this Montana town, credit card spending by Canadians has plunged 39% so far this year compared to last year.
It's disappointing and sad. I mean, we totally understand that for many people, they're choosing not to visit the United States right now.
The boycott in response to U.S. President Donald Trump's sweeping tariffs on Canadian goods and his suggestions that Canada should become the U.S.'s 51st state. Businesses are trying to coax Canadians down south, offering discounts and deals. At this Montana brewery, there's a special only for Canadians, 2 beers for the price of 1.
Try to coax me all you want. Spend all the money you want on marketing and advertisement. There's no way I'm going to go against my values for a free beer. Let me know in the comments if you agree with me on this.
Certainly we're seeing less Canadian tourism, and that's very noticeable.
Many Canadians avoid U.S. travel for reasons beyond politics, including the low value of the loonie and the annoyance at the border with changing requirements to enter the U.S., including registering and fingerprinting for longer stays.
Those are all barriers to travel. When presented between two destinations and one appears more hassle-free, maybe more affordable, the traveler may choose in that direction.
There aren't many Canadians here, but polling shows that among Canadians who frequently travel, their resolve is starting to slip with every passing month.
It's softening, but we're not out of the woods yet. So I don't want to sound too optimistic because it wouldn't take much to set it back yet again.
Now this is the reason why I wanted to bring this report up again, even though we talked about it a few videos ago. But where is this idea coming from that the boycott is softening? I don't think the beer guy or the hotel guy would say that it's softening, considering that they're down 25% and clearly noticing far fewer Canadians. This might just be me, but it's a bit of a pet peeve of mine when people being interviewed try to offer a glimpse of hope that things are starting to improve. Because what that does is it creates this perception that, oh, the Canadian boycott is ending, or that people are starting to give up. Sure, not every Canadian is boycotting. And if the media is only getting opinions from Canadians who don't care and are still traveling to the United States, that doesn't speak for all of Canada. I'll continue to speak up for those of us sticking to our values and continuing the US boycott.
Skiers and snowboarders may still travel south if the conditions are right, including plenty of powder.
It's always about the snow. And someone has great snow conditions, people are going to go to that ski area.
U.S. ski resorts will know soon whether their northern neighbors are ready to visit, with the make-or-break holiday season fast approaching.
That guy from the National Ski Association, or whatever organization he's from, in my opinion, is just as arrogant as the CEO from the Tourism Arizona, who said that Canadians will cave and eventually come back to Arizona once the weather gets cold. I asked in my previous video whether people will return to Whitefish Mountain Resort, and the overwhelming response was people saying no. Many pointed out that the mountains in Alberta and British Columbia are simply way better. So I don't think it has anything to do with the weather conditions. Like I've said before, if Mount Baker had a full meter of fresh snow with perfect powder conditions, I still wouldn't go. So I see his statement as just another example of US exceptionalism. The idea that they're the best, and that will simply come back because of the snow conditions. But this is a different ballgame now. This isn't like COVID or any other previous turmoil that temporarily stopped Canadians from traveling to the United States. So I guess my point in today's video comes to two things. First, the US bourbon industry is now in step 2 of the FAFO phase, and I have a feeling we're going to hear a lot more from them in 2026. Second, ignore the exceptionalism. Look at the occupancy numbers, the decrease in credit card spending, and the overall tone of the people being interviewed. That's how you can tell whether or not the boycott is actually softening, or the businesses are actually really struggling. That's all I have for today's video. If you found any value in anything I talked about today, or you enjoyed the cat meows, help support the channel by hitting the subscribe button below. Thanks again, everyone, and I'll see you in the next one.